Hey guys, so chapter 301. I'm genuinely not sure where to even begin with this chapter, to be frank with you. Um, like, because, okay, largely this chapter as we see it is a flashback, but in a lot of ways, the way this flashback is structured, it's done through the lens of showing us that, like, you could really almost say that from birth, Toya's descent into madness and him becoming Dabi was kind of inevitable almost, because on top of the fact that he grew up in an environment where he already never saw failure as an option, but also Toya's perspective could be seen as for him it was one thing to be pressured into being stronger than All Might, but just from who Endeavour was as both a hero, as a person, just who Endeavour was as an individual, Toya had already placed a lot of preconceived expectations on himself in order to just be stronger than his father. So when you compile that with on top of All Might, yeah, it's basically it's gonna mess a kid's it's gonna mess a kid up, and it's gonna mess the kids up, especially for someone who has, especially for someone like pretty much Toya, who had a lot of insecurities going for him. And and the even more sad thing is and what makes it even more sad though is at the end of the day, like Toya was when you look at Toya's life, he was motivated by the very simple desire to hide from in order to hide from the reality that at the time he couldn't control his power. He was too weak to. And going back to my earlier point about Toya's fall being inevitable, in a lot of ways, Dabi, as we know him today, is kind of the earliest example of the pretty much quirk singularity theory. Because with pretty much Toya, his quirk was so powerful that he couldn't even control it. Like a lot of his, uh, like with Toya, his power was just so his power was just so strong that his body just couldn't control it properly. And in so and it is like it's kind of fucked up to say, but in a lot of ways, the expectations of hero society is responsible for the creation of Dabi and how he's the living embodiment of those failures. Like I know it's kind of strange to say, but that is kind of the truth of the matter here. That Toya, Dabi, they are creations of this failed environment, and even and it's and it's all because that it's all and when you get down to it, it's really just because no one was there for him. No one was there for no one was there for Toya in order to help in order to help him control not only his power, but in order to reassure him that that he can be a hero, or that he can be or that he just he can control his power to enough where he can at least be considered normal, or that he doesn't have to feel pressured with these expectations. So it's like, yeah, he really is a case where no one was there for him. um and but of course through that we also get a very interesting dive into the family dynamics of the Todoroki clan during this time as well, because this chapter, it really kind of sheds a different spotlight on Ray and what exactly she was talking about in last week's chapter. Because what Ray is talking about, because as weird as it is to say, for as much as Endeavour is guilty of pushing these expectations on Toya, and just for not being the father he should have been at the time, like with Endeavor, at least we can say he tried. He tried to at least be there for him. He just didn't fully comprehend or understand what pretty much Toya was feeling or what he was going through. Just he didn't understand Toya's insecurities. It might because it might, but the thing more than anything, and it's gonna sound corny, but the one thing Toya needed more than anything else was a mother's love, and understanding that at the time, like with with basically Ray, she was too complacent and willing to turn a blind eye to what was happening because she probably felt there was nothing she could do. She was powerless to do anything. And when Shoto was born, those feelings of inadequacy and weakness within Toya just kind of boiled to the surface and exploded. Which, and in that sense, a lot of Ray's perspective on this thing, on what was going on with Toya, it goes a long way towards explaining how Ray approached her more affectionate treatment of Shoto. It was kind of her, for her, it was her own way of atoning for just never being there for Toya when he needed her, and her way of masking that failure. But now that Toya has returned as Dabi, she's just pretty much just like pretty much Endeavour has been forced to pretty much confront a lot of his failure and just how and just his and just him wallowing in self-pity. Ray had the moment that Dabi returned as Toya. Ray was also forced to confront that her own personal failures, like and then this moment, like her confronting this failure is her choice. So now it's Endeavor's turn, and he needs to decide what he wants to do and what he needs to do, which again in this case he needs to stop wallowing in that self-pity he's feeling, otherwise Dabi really will have won. And I like how this chapter is really laying out that whatever happens from here, this will be something that the Todorokis are going to deal with as a family. Like this, like in the face of this adversity, this has brought the Todoroki family closer together. As weird as this is to say, like the ghost of Toya Todoroki now as Dabi has kind of in their effort in order to break in Dabi's effort to break his father, it's actually kind of brought the family closer together now. And but at this point it's just all determinant on what Endeavour does now. Now I will admit one thing I did feel was off about this chapter is the pacing, because even for a flashback chapter, the events in this really felt short, and maybe it's because of Horikoshi's use of paneling that it felt that way, because there were some moments where it did feel a little off, and some moments where just the full use of the panel was unneeded in certain places. But there was something just off about how this chapter felt pacing wise for me. Also, generally speaking, I think also generally speaking, another thing that's been kind of missing from a lot of these chapters, for as good as these chapters are, believe me, they're good. But the one thing that's really missing in these particular chapters for me is Todoroki's perspective, because even though he was only a baby at the time and not like directly responsible for what happened to Toya, his birth still did spur on those feelings of resentment, inadequacy, and hatred within Toya. And considering Shoto is more than likely to be the one that fights his brother in the end game of the series, I really need to hear out loud what exactly like Todoroki is thinking, like right now, and how Shoto plans to move forward, or at least in a way where we hear it out loud. Like I it's one of those things where I've already got a bit of a sense of what Endeavor's feelings are going to amount to, but I really need to hear a declaration from like pretty much Shoto himself and what he plans to do. Like as of right now for me, like from Shoto's like what Shoto's going to do and what he plans to do about the whole situation with his brother. To me, that is even more important as to what as to what Endeavor's going to do, because for as important of a role as Endeavor is going to be in the battle with in the battle against in whatever future conflict, in any future conflict they come into contact with Dabi, like Shoto is the one who has the most potential in order I don't know necessarily save his brother, but definitely be the one in order to confront him head on with basically every bit of experience with every bit of experience that he's had with Endeavor compared to what Toya's experienced with Endeavor. So yeah, um, but yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and list your Crunchyroll. That have been me signing off. Later, guys.